Actually, I'm not sure. I definitely think that movies are a very powerful way to tell the past. And of course, this is a free society. I really hope that the kind of movie that I would like to see is made someday. But I don't think that these are the kind of movies that necessarily help. Because, see, while they do increase the name recognition of the Cholas, the image they promote of the Cholas is not one that the Cholas themselves would recognize. Because the Cholas in their texts see themselves in a very different way, present themselves in a very different way from the way that Ponnyin Selvan does. And in a lot of ways, that's actually like pretty anachronistic, and it actually flies in the face of what their history actually was. Now, I find the Cholas completely fascinating because the region in which they emerge is actually one of the most unique places in medieval India at the time. So at that point of time, especially the Kaveri floodplain, but also Tamilakam by large, was actually a very multi-centric and very hierarchical place. In that it wasn't just about the kings, but right down to village assemblies, people had a tremendous amount of like local autonomy. And for the most people, what their village and county assemblies was deciding was actually more important than what the king was doing. The king was off, fighting his wars and all that, but all the humdrum daily stuff where figuring out where the irrigation tank is like up to the right level, or if you have to like build a new bund or you have to dredge it more. These are things that most people are actually concerned with. They aren't like sitting around and singing songs about how great the Chola king is, which they do in Ponniyin Selvan, by the way. And also, I mean, by depicting the Cholas as, they spread simply through like war and conquest and being awesome and swinging their swords at people and like all those things, like, yes, of course, war was a big part of it. But first of all, they didn't fight war the way that Ponnyin Selvan shows it. But also, how do I put this? They're much more complex than that. Their world is much more than just the court politics. The way that they think about religion, the way they think about conquest, the way they think about expansion, the way they think about rulership and all that. I think the way that Ponnyin Selvan depicts it, and of course, that's because it's a product of its times. In the 1950s, Kalki Krishnamurti, the author of Ponnyin Selvan, needed Tamil nationalist heroes. He's a freedom fighter. He's living in a time when Hindi is being imposed in South India. He needs Tamil heroes, and so he chooses to write the Cholas in a particular way. But is that necessarily the way that we still need to think about them today? Do they still need to be heroes, or can we just appreciate them as people who changed, who are morally complex, morally gray people, who did morally gray things in a morally gray world? A film, I think, especially a big budget Bollywood film, is very afraid of moral grayness. It's got to be very black and white, to the point where its protagonists and antagonists are literally dark-skinned and fair-skinned. And I was very, like, if you look at the Pandyas, for example, in Ponnyin Selvan, they're all dark-skinned. And I was like, they look the same as the Cholas, right? They're like, from like a few kilometers away. They're the same people.